He knew the look. It was the same one he saw reflected in the mirror most mornings. The tight jaw, the furrowed brow, the eyes that held a weariness years beyond their age. He saw it in the faces of his colleagues, his friends, even strangers on the street. That quiet desperation, that silent scream against the relentless pressure of modern existence. It was the look of someone who felt like they were constantly battling a rising tide, a tide of expectations, responsibilities, and anxieties that threatened to pull them under. He wasn't immune. Far from it. He felt the weight of it all pressing down on him, the demands of his career, the complexities of his relationships, the nagging feeling that he was always falling short, never quite measuring up to some invisible standard. The digital world, with its constant barrage of curated perfection, only amplified the sense of inadequacy. Every success story felt like a personal indictment, every highlight reel a reminder of his own perceived failures. He'd tried all the usual remedies. The self-help books promising instant transformation, the productivity hacks designed to squeeze more out of every hour, the mindfulness apps that offered fleeting moments of calm amidst the chaos. Some of it helped for a while. But the underlying unease always returned, a persistent hum beneath the surface of his carefully constructed facade. He found himself increasingly drawn to the stories of those who had faced unimaginable adversity and emerged stronger, wiser, more resilient. He devoured biographies of historical figures who had stared into the abyss and refused to blink. He sought out accounts of ordinary people who had overcome extraordinary challenges, finding strength in the face of loss, resilience in the wake of trauma. He wasn't looking for easy answers or quick fixes. He knew that life was inherently difficult, that pain and suffering were unavoidable parts of the human experience. What he craved was a framework, a philosophy, a set of principles that could help him navigate the inevitable storms of life with greater equanimity and courage. He began to explore the ancient wisdom of the Stoics, drawn to their emphasis on virtue, reason, and acceptance. He resonated with their belief that true happiness wasn't found in external circumstances, but in the cultivation of inner strength and resilience. He started to see the power in focusing on what he could control. His thoughts, his actions, his reactions, and accepting what he couldn't. This wasn't some abstract intellectual exercise. It was a practical, day-to-day struggle to align his actions with his values, to live with integrity and purpose in a world that often seemed to reward the opposite. It was about learning to embrace discomfort, to find meaning in suffering, to transform obstacles into opportunities for growth. He wasn't there yet. Far from it. He still stumbled, he still faltered, he still succumbed to moments of doubt and despair. But he was learning to be kinder to himself, to forgive his imperfections, to see his struggles not as signs of weakness, but as opportunities to learn and grow. He was beginning to understand that the journey itself was the destination, that the true measure of a man wasn't how many times he fell, but how many times he got back up. He started to perceive the constant barrage of stimuli as a test of his resolve, a challenge to his inner peace. Each email, each meeting, each unexpected obstacle became an opportunity to practice detachment, to exercise self-control, to choose his response rather than react impulsively. He knew the path ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be setbacks, disappointments, and moments of profound uncertainty. But he also knew that he wasn't alone. He was part of a long line of individuals who had grappled with the same questions, faced the same challenges, and found the strength to persevere. And that, in itself, was a source of hope. He began to recognize pain not as an adversary to be vanquished, but as an instructor, albeit a stern one. Much like a blacksmith tempers steel by subjecting it to intense heat, life's trials could forge within him an unyielding resilience. The discomfort, the frustration, the moments of sheer exhaustion. These were not signs of failure, but rather the very crucible in which his character was being shaped. Think of it like this: a sculptor doesn't create a masterpiece without chipping away at the raw stone. The resistance of the material is essential to revealing the form within. Expanding upon this, he discovered the significance of perspective. He realized that his initial reaction to hardship often stemmed from a narrow, self-centered viewpoint. By consciously widening his lens, by considering the larger context, he could often find a silver lining, a hidden opportunity for growth. A lost deal, for instance, might initially feel like a devastating setback. Yet, upon reflection, it could reveal flaws in his strategy, prompting him to refine his approach and ultimately leading to more fruitful endeavors. Another crucial layer is the acceptance of imperfection, both in himself and in others. He had long labored under the illusion that he needed to be flawless, that any mistake was a sign of inadequacy. But he came to understand that striving for perfection was a fool's errand, a recipe for perpetual disappointment. Instead, he embraced the concept of continuous improvement, focusing on making incremental progress rather than achieving some unattainable ideal. This shift in mindset freed him from the paralyzing fear of failure and allowed him to take bolder risks. Correspondingly, he started to view his relationships through a lens of compassion and understanding. He realized that everyone was fighting their own battles, carrying their own burdens. By extending empathy to others, he not only strengthened his connections but also gained a deeper appreciation for the shared humanity that bound them together. A sarcastic remark from a colleague, rather than triggering a defensive reaction, became an opportunity to inquire about their well-being, to offer support rather than judgment. However, acceptance should not be mistaken for complacency. It wasn't about passively resigning himself to fate, but rather about actively choosing his response to whatever life threw his way. He could not control the external circumstances, but he could control his attitude, his effort, his commitment to his values. This realization empowered him to take ownership of his life, to become the architect of his own destiny. It was akin to navigating a turbulent river. He couldn't stop the currents from flowing, but he could learn to steer his boat skillfully, to avoid the rocks, and to reach his desired destination. In summary, he understood that pain was inevitable, an intrinsic part of the human experience. But giving up, succumbing to despair, was a choice. He chose to learn from his struggles, to embrace his imperfections, and to persevere with unwavering determination. Reflecting on this journey so far, one begins to appreciate the intricate tapestry woven from threads of adversity, acceptance, and unwavering resolve. It's less about charting a course free from storms and more about learning to navigate the unpredictable seas with a steady hand and a clear compass. The experiences encountered, the challenges overcome, they've collectively served as a crucible, refining not just the surface, but the very essence of one's being. Consider, if you will, the image of a mosaic. Each individual piece, viewed in isolation, might seem insignificant, perhaps even flawed. Yet, when carefully placed alongside others, these disparate fragments coalesce to form a breathtaking whole, a testament to the beauty that can emerge from apparent imperfection. Similarly, the seemingly random events and experiences of life, when embraced with intention and perspective, contribute to the creation of a richer, more meaningful existence. Drawing these strands together, we see a recurring theme: the power of internal transformation. It's not about bending the world to one's will, but rather about cultivating an inner landscape that remains resilient and serene, regardless of external turbulence. The ability to find equilibrium amidst chaos, to extract wisdom from hardship, and to extend compassion even in the face of adversity. These are the hallmarks of a life lived with purpose and authenticity. In light of these insights, the path forward becomes clearer, not as a meticulously planned itinerary, but as an unfolding journey of self-discovery. It's about embracing the unknown with courage, trusting in one's capacity to adapt and overcome, and remaining open to the lessons that life inevitably presents. It's about recognizing that true strength doesn't lie in avoiding pain, but in harnessing its transformative potential. Think of it as the art of kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with gold, transforming flaws into features of beauty. This is not merely patching up something broken, but elevating it to something even more valuable and beautiful than before. As we pivot towards the final reflection, let us remember that the true measure of success isn't found in accolades or achievements, but in the quiet dignity of a life lived with integrity and purpose. It's about cultivating inner peace, extending kindness to others, and leaving the world a little brighter than we found it. The ultimate destination isn't a place of effortless ease, but a state of enduring resilience, a testament to the indomitable spirit that resides within us all. It's about finding that inner compass, aligning it with your core values, and navigating life's uncertainties with unwavering conviction. He stood at a precipice, not of despair, but of profound understanding. The journey had been arduous, a relentless climb through valleys of doubt and over mountains of fear. But with each step, with each stumble, a new perspective had emerged, a clearer vision of the path ahead. The pain, once perceived as an insurmountable obstacle, had revealed itself as a catalyst, a force that had forged within him an unshakable resolve. It was no longer a question of avoiding the storms, but of learning to dance in the rain. The world, with its inherent chaos and uncertainty, would continue to present challenges, to test the limits of his resilience. But now, armed with the wisdom gleaned from experience, he knew that true strength wasn't found in the illusion of control, but in the acceptance of what is. It was about choosing his response, about aligning his actions with his values, about living each moment with intention and purpose. He understood that the pursuit of perfection was a mirage, a siren song that led only to disappointment. Instead, he embraced the beauty of imperfection, recognizing that flaws were not signs of weakness, but rather unique markings that added depth and character to the mosaic of his life. He chose to focus on progress, on continuous growth, on becoming the best version of himself, one day at a time. The connections he forged with others became a source of profound meaning, a reminder that he wasn't alone on this journey. He extended compassion and understanding, recognizing that everyone was grappling with their own struggles, carrying their own burdens. He offered support and encouragement, knowing that even the smallest act of kindness could make a difference in someone's life. And in this newfound understanding, he discovered a sense of peace that transcended circumstance. It wasn't a passive resignation, but an active choice to embrace the present moment, to find joy in the simple things, to appreciate the beauty that surrounded him, even in the midst of adversity. It was a quiet confidence, a deep-seated knowing that he had the strength to face whatever life threw his way. The path ahead remained uncertain, but he no longer feared the unknown. He embraced the journey with open arms, trusting in his ability to adapt, to learn, and to grow. He knew that there would be moments of doubt, moments of pain, moments when he would question his own strength. But he also knew that he had the power to overcome, to persevere, to emerge stronger and wiser on the other side. So he stepped forward, not with arrogance or certainty, but with humility and hope. He embraced the pain, not as an enemy, but as a teacher. He accepted the challenges, not as obstacles, but as opportunities. And he continued to strive, not for perfection, but for purpose, for meaning, for a life lived with intention and integrity. The true practice begins now, in the quiet moments, in the everyday choices, in the unwavering commitment to living a life worthy of the struggle.